Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's episode review. This time we will be reviewing episode 52, the Season 1 finale, the finale of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7 Season 1, Rook versus Yuga. I do apologize about the delay. I really wanted to record this Sunday night to get it out to you yesterday, but I had just come off a 48-hour live stream that I did over on Twitch from Friday night to Sunday night, and so Sunday night and Monday I was just basically in a coma all day, so I do apologize for the delay on this review because there is so much to talk about, including the new adversaries for Season 2, but I'm going to do a separate video on that, most likely out tomorrow, which will be Wednesday for most of you, so stay on the lookout for that. Not really going to talk about Season 2 and what's to come in this video too much, but this comment section is probably going to be a little wild, so definitely brace yourselves, and hopefully we can all stay civil and respect each other's opinions down below in the comment section, which I feel like some people have been able to do and others not so much, although that's just what fandom is all about at the end of the day. What did I think of this episode? I really liked this episode. I thought the duel was phenomenal. It's probably my favorite duel of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's thus far. The back and forth was incredible. Seeing Yuga use Graceful Charity and then seeing Rook double that by using Pot of Greed was so fun. Seeing both of those characters use very OG banned overpowered drawing cards, which aren't as overpowered in Rush duels, but still, it was very fun to see those cards. And then seeing all of the aces, all of Rook's Dragears versus all of Yuga's aces. I mean, Yuga at one point had 10 level 7 monsters in the grave. There was one turn where Yuga dodged, I think, like 5 or 6 of Rook's attacks and still ended up losing. I mean, Rook absolutely deserved to win this duel just based on how he dueled. Now, I'm going to talk about how I feel about Yuga losing and Rook winning a little later on, and whether I like it or don't like it, and whether I agree or disagree with what I've been seeing out there online, because I've been seeing a lot. But I just want to focus on the dueling quality. The back and forth was phenomenal. I just thought this duel was such a well-done hype duel. As soon as Rook got over that maximum, and just seeing both of these duelists using traps and spells and monster effects. Rook uses a trap card like Hell I'll Lose. That's, I guess, the name of the trap card, a very on-the-nose trap card, which I thought was pretty funny. And he's able to keep Metagears, which is his new ace, Metagears, on the field as all of Yuga's monsters just crash into it. Rook is left with 100 life points. And then seeing the triple Dragears, seeing the triple Gear Dragons on the field against 3 different sets of Yuga's aces. Yuga had 3 of his aces led by Seven's Road Magician, and then he used a card that allowed him to summon 3 more aces from his deck, or from his grave, excuse me, which included, you know, the one that he used against Khan, Meteor Impact, and then a few others. It was just so cool. We didn't see Lightning Bolt Condor, which is my favorite of Yuga's, so maybe the duel takes a little bit of a bias knock for that, but it was still just so cool seeing the Gears versus the aces, and that was fair, right? Because we didn't want to see Yuga sit on this maximum, and the second you defeat the maximum, or the maximum defeats you, the duel is over. These last 2 duels have heavily nerfed the effect of maximum monsters in this universe. Heavily. These last 2 duels, where Gakuto was able to get a draw with Nail, and now Rook was able to straight up defeat Yuga, even though Rook and Gakuto did not have maximums, Nail and Yuga did, I thought was really cool, because as we are going into Season 2, we now have a new viewpoint of maximums, right? Before this, it was always, you needed a maximum to defeat a maximum. That was the only way you were going to beat a maximum. Now, after these last 3 episodes, it's more like, okay, it's possible to knock off a maximum even if your deck doesn't have one. And I like that. It just feels a little more fair. And I think for this universe, it's a good vibe to have going into Season 2, where we know we are going to see a new summoning mechanic as well. Maximums are a little nerfed in the Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's universe after these 2 duels. At least that's how I view it. So as soon as that maximum was defeated and we saw Yuga's aces versus Rook's dragons, I thought it was fair. I thought it was level playing field. And all the while this duel is going on, of course, Rush dueling is coming to an end. Yuga says it best. Even if we stop the duel now, no one's ever going to be able to rush duel again. Because as soon as someone starts rush dueling, the program is going to initiate once again. And once that program initiates again, rush dueling is going to cease to exist anyway. So we're in the finals. We're in front of a crowd. We might as well finish the final and best rush duel ever. So I completely like the ideal there. I mean, you have to do it because it doesn't matter. At this point, you've lost, or have you? And this is why I love Yuga's character, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. Obviously, the big notion of this duel and of this episode is Rook winning. He beats off Yuga, kind of shockingly, and he stays undefeated through the first 52 episodes. I want to talk about Rook first. I want to talk about the winner first. I think that's fair to do. I personally do not really have that much of an issue with this result. I think this result is good for a couple of reasons. Number one, Rook is now clearly the strongest duelist in this world. He is the strongest rush duelist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens. Maybe you can argue Nail is still up there, and I think you can argue that, but I think after this, Rook is the true king of duels. This is what he wanted to be. It's what he set after. And Yuga to be king of duels, he was always kind of wavering, right? He was never... There were points in the show where he was like, oh, I really want that title. And there were other points where it was like, does he really care about being the king of duels? Rook obviously wants it more. He's always wanted it more. Rook achieves his dream that he sought after from the very first episode of this show. He is now officially and unequivocally the king of duels. And it keeps a character undefeated going into next season. And this is why I don't have too much of an issue with it right now. I know there's a lot of people that are upset with Rook staying undefeated for 52 episodes. And I should preface with this. If Rook goes the whole show and never loses a duel, then that is something I will not be thrilled about. If Rook goes undefeated the entirety of Sevens, I'm not going to be thrilled about that. But I think the chances of that are so small that I'm not really worried about it. Rook winning this duel means he is undefeated going into Season 2. Now, any character that beats Rook will immediately be legitimized as a threat or a legitimate character and duelist. So Rook is now your key, because Yuga, even if Yuga wins this duel, if Yuga loses to the new villains in Season 2 early on, okay, well, we saw that with Nail, we saw that with Asana, we saw it with Rook in the beginning of the first arc. I know he's not a villain, but we've seen it with Yuga so many times. It wouldn't be impactful. We'd be talking about how, oh, well, they're just redoing what they did with Nail and Asana. With Rook, it gives you that variety. It gives you that opportunity to really spice things up by having him lose for the first time ever to a new villain group, potentially. And I think the villains that are coming, I think that's what's going to happen. I think my bold prediction, I think Rook is going to lose very early on in Season 2. And I think that's why this decision to give him the win was great. Now, if Rook goes the whole show and never loses, I'll look back at this duel and I'll say, all right, maybe this was a decent time to have him lose. But I just don't think that's going to happen. And I think there's a hyper focus on Rook because it's the first 52 episodes. We have seen 52 episode stretches throughout all of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime where the rival and or the protagonist have gone undefeated. There were plenty of 52 episode stretches where Yugimoto never lost. Judai did not lose in the final 100 plus episodes of GX. Yuma did not lose in the final 70 episodes of Zexal. Yuya did not lose in the final 55 episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. And Yusaku and Yusei, don't get me started there. I don't love the undefeated trope, but because it's the first 52 episodes, I think there is a hyper and micro focus on Rook and his undefeated streak, and I like to look beyond what is currently happening. I think they are building up for an even more shocking and a better opportune time for Rook to have his first loss. And for that reason, at least right now, I don't have an issue with it. Again, if Rook goes undefeated for the entire show, I'll look back at this duel and say, all right, I think this was a duel that maybe he should have lost. But I just don't have that much of an issue with it right now. And then to flip it around to Yuga, I've seen a few people say, oh, Yuga's horrible. How can your protagonist lose 5 times in 52 episodes? Which is fair, but I disagree with it. I really don't view Yuga as a weak character. Now, I don't view him as an elite duelist. That's important to note, but I don't think being a great duelist or the best duelist in the show should equal being a great protagonist. Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens is clearly a different type of Yu-Gi-Oh! On many levels, and we have been spoiled as Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans to have our protagonists as these undefeated, untouchable duelists because it fit with their character. Yusaku Fujiki never loses a duel. Yusei never loses a duel. And Yusaku and Yusei and Judai and Yuma and Yuya and a lot of these characters, their entire legacy was based around how good of a duelist are you. Yusei didn't invent synchros, Yuma didn't invent XZs, Yusaku didn't invent links, but what makes Yuga potentially the most unique protagonist out of all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonists that we have gotten is his legacy is not based on winning duels. His legacy will always be creator of rush duels, saving rush duels, and having the foresight to detect threats and continue to grow the game of rush duels. And so in a sense, Yuga wins in this duel, because even though he loses the duel, he wins the battle against Otis, and he's able to persevere, as we have seen so many times already, and keep rush duels alive. If you asked the creator of rush duels, Oda Yuga, would you rather win this duel or keep rush duels alive? He is picking the latter every single time, as he should. Yuga's legacy will always be the creator of rush duels, not the best duelist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens or the best rush duelist. I always think about the Pac-Man analogy that I love to bring up. The creator of Pac-Man is probably not even a top 500 player when it comes to Pac-Man, but is the creator of Pac-Man's legacy based on whether he is a good player at his own game, or is it based on him creating the game in the first place and growing it to the point where it becomes a world-known game? Everyone knows the game of Pac-Man. Everyone knows it. And that is Yuga's legacy. That will always be what his character is based on. And so him losing in the finals, him losing 5 times in 52 episodes. The only loss I didn't really like was the Asana one because I felt it was way too similar to Nail. Doesn't really hurt his character for me. It just doesn't. I think we have been spoiled with Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonists and their invincibility traits. Yusei never losing. We're coming off a show where Yusaku Fujiki never lost. Judai not losing in the final 100 plus episodes of GX. Yuma going undefeated the entire second half of Zexal 2. I think it's more fun and fascinating when you have a protagonist that is clearly not the best duelist in the show and is very vulnerable. He is a vulnerable protagonist when it comes to dueling, but he is a phenomenal protagonist when it comes to foresight, when it comes to growth of rush duels, and when it comes to emotional intelligence and ability to read things that are going on that we, the viewers, are not even able to know and be able to tell what's going on. And that's what makes Yuga special. Think about all the times that Goku got beat up. Think about all the times that Naruto lost fights. Now, I've never watched Naruto, but think about all the times that Gon got beaten within an inch of his life in Hunter x Hunter in the first 50, 60 episodes. My friend Nick T, he said that, that's happened already like 5 times in the first 60 episodes. This is typical for a shonen protagonist to lose and not be invincible. And I think we've just been spoiled as Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans for many years with our protagonists being invincible, untouchable duelists. I think it's a nice breath of fresh air. And I also just don't think that Yuga's legacy and worth is tied to his ability to duel. I just don't, and I don't think I ever will. But that's just my whole spiel on Yuga and Rook and why I don't really think that this result is that bad. I just don't. But of course, you guys can let me know your thoughts down below. All in all, I loved the episode. I mean, through 52 episodes, it's probably my favorite duel at this point. I think it's probably been the best duel that we've gotten. The episode ends very ominously, as it should, with this massive spaceship over the moon. Also, quick preface, Otis was not on the moon. That was a nice red herring. Otis was not on the moon. He was in this room underground, like in the Goha Corporation building where the server was. They showed us that server right after they showed us the moon scene, which tricked us all into thinking Otis was on the moon. He was not on the moon. He was literally underground, but he escaped, and we see him on top of this building with a smile on his face. So he escaped. The Goha siblings are here. That's what these aliens are being called. We have some mini bios on them, on a few of them, and we know their names, and we know the voice actors and voice actresses that will be playing this group, the Goha siblings. So more on that will be tomorrow. I'll do a whole video on that tomorrow. But obviously, these are your threats in Season 2. One last thing, let's please lose the 13 episode arcs. I think we can all agree on that. 13 episodes is just not enough to flesh out character storylines, to give new characters. We're getting 6, 7 new characters in this upcoming season, to give these new characters some time to grow and develop while continuing to nourish and nurture your existing characters. Please ditch the 13 episode arcs. That is my biggest want right now for Season 2, and that's one of my biggest disappointments with this first season. But all in all, I'd give this first season of Sevens probably around a 7.77. I know it's corny, but that's probably where I'd give it. It had some episodes that were kind of misses, but all in all, I thought it was a very enjoyable and a solid first season. We'll see if the show can grow on that going forward. But guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you all so much for hearing my thoughts and ramblings on episode 52 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens. Please let me know all your thoughts on this first season and on Rook and Yuga's characters and what you want to see them accomplish going forward. Thank you all so much for watching. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Panther J, Blue Maiden 28, Jarrett Buller, XSlayer64, Brandon Gomez, and TenjoKogamiZaizen, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, and Anime Kaput, and to my Egyptian God tier patron, XZ's Lover 104. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon. Thank you to everyone who is a YouTube channel member. I appreciate it so much. You guys help me out tremendously. I am on Twitch, I am on Twitter, and I am on Instagram. Links for all those will be down below. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.